I have just finished this book, Steven Bartlett's book, Diary of a CEO, and I have just to admit it's literally changed how I think and how I see the business. When I picked this book, I was expecting something packed with tactical strategies for scaling revenue, managing teams, and all of that stuff. But what I actually found was something far more profound. Instead of a roadmap for business, it was this massive psychological mirror. It felt almost like a guide on how to build a company and so much more about why we succeed, why we fail, and how totally invisible architecture of our minds dictates everything that we do. In this video, I want to dive into this book with you because closing this book genuinely changed how I think about a business, ambition, success, and tiny detailed choices that I make. It all starts with a rather uncomfortable question. Are we actually making rational decisions? I mean, we all love to think of ourselves as absolute authors of our lives, right? Carefully calculating our own next moves, logically thinking about our own options. But as you get deeper into this material, you start to wonder if we're actually in control of our own choices or if we are blindly following this invisible script that we didn't even write ourselves. Because if you look closely, you realize we may literally just be repeating old stories. The profound realization that hit me here is that your beliefs create your own reality, and stories we whisper to ourselves every single day completely determine our own limits long before we ever take a step. If you hold on to a story that we are just repeating to yourself that you are not smart enough, we are not good there, you will not apply to this opportunity because your internal narrative tells you that successful people are just lucky. We won't even start before you begin. And the book calls this invisible script. And realizing how this silently governed us was a massive call for me. It's fascinating because transforming your life doesn't start with some ground business strategy or a life hack. Actually, it's often started by simply changing the script you are whispering to yourself. It's about recognizing how our own internal thoughts and external surroundings are scripting our own lives without our own permission. And it's actually shattered the illusion of control. We are thinking we're making logical decisions based on cold, hard facts. But reality is we are so frequently overrating outdated and inherited beliefs. We hold on to these limits that aren't actually real, but because we have repeated them in our heads a million times more and more, and it's too late to start a business, for example, that's will stop us from thinking and from wanting to take an action. And these internal beliefs are heavily fueled with our external world. Protecting your environment is protecting your own future. And this is a bold quote for me. And protecting your own environment is protecting your own future. But the truth is your environment silently overpowers your willpower every single day. If everyone around you complaining, you will start complaining as well. But it's about people. It's what you watch, what you consume, what you read, what you don't scroll on your phone every morning. Your attention shapes your standards. What made me look closely in how I actually get things done, or why I sometimes don't, it introduces me to what's called the action paradox. We spend so much of our lives waiting for that absolute perfect moment to start. And we buy the books, we make plans, and we just sit there waiting for that magical feeling of readiness to come over before we launch the business, post the video, or change careers. We spend so much time waiting for confidence before launching, and profound flaw in that thinking is that confidence is a condition to start. It's a reward for taking action. Nobody starts, and every single success out there or entrepreneur began with a massive amount of uncertainty. They just acted anyway, and every time you take action, we are handing your brain undeniable evidence that you are capable of doing so many things. And confidence is built, it's not discovered. And right alongside this trap, this is motivation trap, and we had this motivation at 2 a.m. that finishes on Tuesday morning. And because this motivation is inflated by desire, whether you're writing a complex code or trying to scale a startup or to start a business, comes from creating friction systems. You have to make decisions in advance. You have to create routines that literally forces you to show up every single day and execute, even if the days where you feel zero inspiration. And we need to take actions and rely on systems or and control for failure. You have to control this definition. Failure is just information. It's a mandatory part of success, and it only becomes permanent when you stop learning from it. And those people who made mistakes like to apply because they think it's a reflection of their personal worth. But the fastest learners and most successful people out there view failed business, rejected applications, or products as zero attraction simply as data. It literally feedback telling you how to improve for tomorrow. But okay, all those actions relies on something much deeper. There are this hidden foundation of success that almost every entrepreneur and when you talk about blind ambition, they are actually things that sustain us over the long haul. And the first one is choosing to embrace curiosity. Instead of constantly clinging to certainty, and in a world where AI, markets, and technology are changing in the blink of an eye, and people who actually succeed were not the ones who hold on to what they already know. The future belongs to those who ask questions. And they are not afraid to say, hey, I don't know this. Curiosity keeps you adaptable, and honestly, adaptability is arguably your greatest competitive advantage today. And I was reading this book, a specific quote hit me hardest. Eventually, your body sends you the bill. It is so incredibly common in hustle culture nowadays to just sacrifice sleep, eat poorly, and under exercise just to squeeze in a few more hours of work, but your health is not separate from your career. It is the foundation of it. Your energy levels directly dictate your creativity, your patience, and your ability to solve complex problems, and you cannot outwork a burnout body. So once you have this internal foundation set, you will start to notice how opportunities actually flow in the real world. You start to see the true currency of ambition. And let me tell you, it's quite looks different from a spreadsheet. We so often think business is entirely a scheme of algorithms, numbers, and broad strategies, but the reality relies so heavily on human relationships. Behind every single job offer, client contract, or massive investment is an actually human being. The way you treat people, the way you help others without expecting a single thing in return, that builds trust and reputation. They compound over time in a way that absolutely no algorithm can ever replace. And speaking of reputation, this quote struck a major chord with me personally. Attention is not vanity, it's a leverage. You can have the most amazing skill in the entire world, but if you are entirely invisible, opportunities are going to be incredibly hard to find. By sharing your knowledge and putting yourself out there, you are not just looking for likes, you are building a reputation that acts as a magnet for unpredictable opportunities, and it literally works for you while you sleep. But perhaps the biggest illusion in this book completely shattered for me was the myth of the destination. This deeply ingrained idea is that reaching the mountaintop will magically heal our own troubles, but this here is the emotional core of the entire message. Just think about this psychological treadmill we put ourselves on. You won, you reach the goal, you make money, you buy the house, whatever it is, you do incredibly quickly that huge milestone that become your new boring normal. By year 3, you are already differently chasing the next big goal. And by year 4, you realize you just postpone your happiness indefinitely. And if our joy depends on next achievements, you're going to spend your entire lives waiting to be happy. And this single sense stuck with me long after I closed cover. Success without fulfillment is a very expensive trade. Success without fulfillment is a very expensive trade. You want to celebrate your own progress. If you don't actually enjoy the daily process of doing the work, the ultimate cost of that success is going to be dramatic. And reality is a completely transformed life. This single sentence stuck with me long after I closed cover. Success without fulfillment is a very expensive trade. Look, ambition is a beautiful thing, but if you forgot to celebrate your progress, if you and your people you care about it, if you don't actually enjoy the daily process of doing the work, the ultimate cost of that success is going to be your joy. The reality is a completely transformative life is not built in one cinematic moment. It's built through thousands of tiny, completely invisible daily choices that we make, and it's choosing to learn instead of swim, and choosing to act instead of reading a road for confidence, relying on discipline over fleeting motivation, choosing progress over perfection. These tiny little steps, they compound into a completely different life. Closing this book generally forces me to ask myself some pretty uncomfortable questions. And first one is, what stories I'm telling myself right now? I want to challenge you to look at the invisible script written in your own head today. Are they pushing you forward, or they are holding you back? Because every small choice is not for the person you want to be. So who you are becoming through your little actions. I really hope exploring this source material challenged your thinking as much as it did to me. And if you want a fantastic mirror for your own trajectory, I cannot recommend reading it enough. And before you go, I'd love to know, what is a book that completely changed how you view your own life? let me know down in comments below. And thank you so much for taking the time to walk through this video with me, and I will see you during the next one. Thank you very much, and subscribe.